All right, salute to all the Patreon members, all the subscribers, all the new viewers. I want to thank you guys for your support and the contributions made to the platform. It really means a lot to me. Right now, I am on the road. I am out the country myself, and I don't have my microphone with me. So if I sound like I'm far away, forgive me. I'm speaking through the microphone or the laptop. For those that don't know who I am, my name is Splash Wave Beats. You can call me Splash for short. I've been making content for at least 7 years now. I've been either living or traveling abroad for the last 15 years. I mean, I'm out the country right now. I have a lot of experience as far as living abroad, traveling abroad, and going to school. You name it, I've done it all. Okay. So this article right here, I can connect with this article with this person's mother because my mother was the same way when I started traveling. All right. And sometimes you have to see things where they're coming from, even though, you want to tell them, like, hey, chill out with calling me all the time or texting me all the time. All right. You have to see things from a parent's perspective. Now, before we get into this article, I want to give a salute to O'Shea Duke Jackson for giving the platform a shout out, for giving this channel a shout out the other day. He used a story that I did on, I believe was it Dwayne Morris out of Minnesota, who lost his life down in Brazil. O'Shea Duke Jackson gave me a shout out, played a clip from that live stream. I appreciate it. To be honest, I wasn't even going to do that live. I wasn't even going to do any more lives talking about traveling ever again because I was just so frustrated at the time. And I took down all my videos from even way back in 2017. They're still on this channel. They're just private right now. But seeing how, my channel came across, his timeline or his desk, and he took the time out to edit the logo. My logo was on the screen. He used a clip from the video, my voice. That was like an hour and a half live stream. Hey man, I salute. I salute to O'Shea Duke Jackson. I appreciate it. And this makes me want to get back into talking about traveling content. All right. Because this information is much needed out here. Because stuff like this, I was talking about it since 2017, but it fell on deaf ears. Everybody, especially the guys, just wanted to hear where the hoes at, where the women that love black men at. I'm like, man, there's more to traveling than just where the women at. Before we get to that, you know, there's some there's some unwritten rules that you have to follow. All right. So, that just gave me the boost. O'Shea Duke Jackson just gave me the boost to go back to talking about giving traveling advice again. So I appreciate it. And I want to say thank you to O'Shea Duke Jackson again. So let's get into this article. Most people, the way this article, like the headlines and everything is written, you're probably under the assumption that this man was drugged. And they haven't confirmed that yet. So let's get into the article right here. A New York man died while on a solo trip to Colombia. It took his grieving mother 5 months to learn what happened. All right. I've talked about this before, and this just fell on deaf ears. You have to understand that when you travel abroad, when something happens to you, worst case comes to worst, if something happens to you and you're not responding, in order for your family to get updates on you or to put out an investigation to find out what really happened, it's going to take a long time. And it's money out of their pocket. They're going to have to hire an investigator from that country you're in. And if there was foul play, you know, it's a homogenous country, more than likely the country that you're traveling to. And they don't really want to throw their own under the bus like that. And the rates that some of these lawyers and investigators give you in order to get updated information on what happened to you, they're going to charge you more than what they would charge their own people because your family is in America. So this is a brother right here, Omar Watson, 31 years old. He was an entrepreneur and an avid traveler. He was found unalived in February in an apartment in Bogota, Colombia. I've never been to Colombia. I've never been to Bogota. I've heard stories about it. And it's one of the travel destinations that you hear brothers going to in Colombia. I stay away from it because I stay away from South America. That's just me, right? Some of these places, it's best to pay a little bit more money for the flight to go to a country that's safer. And safer doesn't always mean that you're free to do whatever in Rome, however you want to roam in that country. No, anything could happen anywhere. One of the safest countries in the world is Taiwan. I used to live in Taiwan. There was a shootout right in front of my building in Hsinchu, on the east side of Hsinchu. It's I forget the name of that street off the top of my head. But anybody who's been to Hsinchu, Taiwan, on the east side of Hsinchu, it's like a whole strip, nothing but condos and restaurants, right? That's the place where you can go out to your building and pick from hundreds of restaurants to choose from, right? I'm exaggerating a little bit, but there's dozens and dozens and dozens of restaurants in that area. So I literally walk across the street and get something to eat at any different restaurant I wanted to go to. And somebody got shot right in front of my building. As a matter of fact, my homie, his name is Tony. He lives in Japan. He was on the phone with me when the shots were going off. And in your mind, you think, okay, some of these countries, they're so safe that you're not thinking about somebody pulling out a gun and shooting somebody or start dumping over in this country, because it's like nothing ever really happens over here. The crime is very, very low. So when I'm on the phone with Tony, like he's tripping out because he's like, man, what's going on over there? Where you at? They shooting. I'm like, nah, it might be backfire or whatever from a car. It's a bad car engine. No, I found out the next day somebody gotten shot. So it doesn't matter, even if you think you're going to the safest country in the world, anything could happen. All right. But Colombia is known for its high crime rate. So you kind of have to be on alert when you're going over there. All right. Omar Watson made a promise to his mother before he left New York City for Colombia in late February. Moments before he climbed into a rideshare to the airport, they hugged in the kitchen of their Brooklyn home. She reminded him of her only request whenever he travels. I told him, Omar, if nothing else, make sure every time you get into your Airbnb at night, you message me and say, Mommy, I'm okay. I cannot pronounce her name. Hyacinth. That's his mother's name. I don't know how to pronounce that name. Forgive me. That's what his mother told CNN. He said he would. My mother used to do the same thing, right? But I started traveling at a very young age, right? I moved out. I moved out at 19, right? I started traveling and traveling to other cities when I was in high school. As soon as I got my license, I would drive to Austin, right? I was always just going out on the road on my own. Um, 17, moved to Houston, I go back to San Antonio, right? On the weekends. Um, 18, I picked up this little traveling job. I was all, doing work all throughout the South, Vegas, Arizona, New Mexico, 18 years old, 19 moving out, right? So when I started traveling out the country at 21 years old, mom and dad would tell me, hit them up or they call me all the time. You know what I used to tell them? I'm like, hey, look, stop calling me every single day, right? I know they love me. I know they're worried about me. So I've told them so many times to stop it, to the point now, they call me every once in a blue moon, right? But in the beginning, they used to say the same thing to me right here, except I wasn't 31, I was 21, right? Hell, 18. So I know where his mother's coming from, because growing up, I didn't see my parents calling grandma or granddad every single day. And I didn't see them coming, calling the house every single day. We pretty much talked to each other during during just holidays and special events, birthdays and holidays. That's it. And when I started traveling, they would call me all the time. I was like, hey man, knock it off. Like, I'm like, here, download this app. It's called Line Messenger. There you can text me and call me, and all you got to use is data on your phone. And they started texting and calling. I'm like, knock it off before I block you. But I understand where they're coming from. So let's continue in this article. Her 31-year-old son sent her a message after his first full day in Bogota on February 24th, and the second day, and the third day. He did not check in on his fourth night, so she called him instead. It was the last time she heard his voice. In the early afternoon on February 29th, less than 2 days after that phone call, Omar Watson was found in the bathroom of his Airbnb. His American passport was on a wooden dresser near the apartment unit entrance, according to a report from police investigators in Bogota. But his iPhone, iPad, and wallet had vanished, his mother said. Okay? So it's a long article. I'm not going to read everything, but I'm gonna read the parts that you need to know, that you need to hear. And so it began. His mother, a 5-month ordeal to unravel the mystery on how her only child was unalived in an unfamiliar country more than 2,000 miles away. Without her son's phone, which likely would have offered clues, the grieving mother was left to wonder, how did he spend his final days? Was he alone when he was unalived inside the white stucco apartment building? And why did his red canvas suitcase, which arrived months later, contain petite feminine clothes along with his items? Okay. There's not a day that I don't break down. There's not a day that goes by that I don't wish I had taken a flight and gone to see him. She told CNN in July, wiping her tears with trembling hands. I don't sleep very well at night. I barely eat. My entire life is different. And nobody's telling me how my child passed away. Okay, so right here, this is very important. Colombia is an increasingly popular travel destination for Americans and other international tourists. From January to June this year, more than a quarter of foreign visitors to Colombia were from the U.S. According to the nation's tourism ministry, it listed Bogota as having the largest percentage of non-resident foreign tourists. But traveling to Colombia, which also has a history of racism against Black people, is not without risk. All right. Do I think what happened to him had anything to do with racism? No. All right. I'm going to give my 2 cents in a little bit. I'm going to give my 2 cents in a little bit. But I know what you're thinking about what happened to him, but I'm going to tell you what the article said. Shortly before Watson's visit, the U.S. Embassy in Bogota issued a warning about 8 suspicious unalivings of U.S. citizens in Medellin between November 1st and December 31st. Last year, the embassy warned that robbers were drugging tourists in the country with scopolamine, a drug nicknamed Devil's Breath. Man, they could like blow this in your face and you kind of doing everything that they're saying, and then you give that person too much, they could you know, pass away, I don't think it initially puts you to sleep. I think it puts you in this like do as I say spell, and then it could put you to sleep. Correct me if I'm wrong. Okay, this is an old drug. This is not new. How did I know about this drug? I heard about this when I was a kid. This was before social media, right? This was before. This is like 99, 2000. Like I was a kid because my parents, they were watching a special on TV and they were talking about scopamine. This was like the late 90s, early 2000s. And you know how there's certain little things in your childhood that just sticks with you. You don't know why. That was one of the reasons, like it's full circle. Now as an adult, I'm seeing that a lot of brothers that are traveling down there, they're losing their lives. They're losing their lives to this deadly drug right here that women are using against them. Right. Um, I'm like, damn, I remember my parents watching that special when I was a kid, and it never went away. It always stuck in my mind, right? My brother's like that. He'll remember something I said to him that was goofy when we were kids, and I'm like, oh, I don't remember that. You remember that, right? That was just one of the things that I remembered. His mother had seen the embassy's warning and worried that her son had been the victim of foul play. She rehashed their last phone conversation over and over for any hints of health problems. He told her he vomited and had diarrhea for a few days, but was feeling better after getting medication from a local pharmacy. She recalls asking him why his breathing sounded a little slower than usual, but he insisted he was fine. Okay, so this is him and his mother right here. All right, so vomiting and diarrhea. Um, when you go into a new country, right? They cook with different oils, different spices, and sometimes they have, they don't in different places that you eat at, they don't really have people from the health department, come down and regulate at some of these restaurants that people eat from. When I was in Thailand, I used to see people eating from food trucks all the time. I said, hell no, I'm not eating from there. Right. And, eventually, I would eat at restaurants that wasn't connected to a mall in the beginning, but I started to get strep throat. I said, I'm not eating at these restaurants anymore. I'm eating at the mall because the mall, they're Western investors behind these malls, in places like Thailand and Bangkok, Icon Siam Paragon, Central World. I used to eat there all the time, right? M Quartier, uh, Mega Bangna Mall. I used to eat there all the time because I know, all right, if I'm served poison or if I'm served food where, they left that oil out too long, they're cooking with the same oil for months, right? Or if they're doing some unsanitary practices in the back of that kitchen, there is an investment group that I could put the blame on. I could point the finger at the mall because little small restaurants, mom and pop restaurants, you're not going to get compensated for them serving you, unsanitary, unsavory food. All right. But um, that's why I always eat at a high end mall. A lot of people, they go to some of these countries and they cook with, different spices and different oils from, that are different. And, you know, for them to build up a tolerance and to build up their immunity, eating that food, they get sick in the beginning. It happens to everybody. All right. So she considered getting on a flight to go to Bogota. I asked him if he wanted me to come and get him. He said yes, but then he changed his mind. So I said, okay, he's a young man. Maybe he wants to stay a little longer and enjoy his visit. You know, a mother's intuition is something that I'll never understand because, you know, Had he said yes and she went down there and got him, maybe he'd still be alive to this day, right? And my apologies because sometimes I do videos on these articles, and I've done several videos of articles in the past, and the victims' families, they're in the comment section, reaching out to me, you know, thank you for being objective, and this is down and third. So if his mother's listening, I hope what I just said, I know you can't help it, but I hope what I said just it doesn't sting. Right. Um, I know that hurts. I know she's probably replaying that over and over in her mind, like, damn, if he said yes in the beginning, if I would just went down there and got him, he'd probably still be alive to this day. When he did not answer her calls for the next 2 days, she knew something was off. It was unlike him not to return her calls. Okay, so then there was a language barrier, and so it took a while for them to give them an update. The body was sent back. I think like 2 weeks later, they had the funeral. Finally, the family learns about the autopsy results. For months, Watson tried to find out her son unalive and what happened to his wallet and electronics. She called and emailed the U.S. Embassy, which told her in March that the autopsy would be finished in 3 months, she said. All right, this is where I want to get. I just want to skip through all this, and they said the forensics investigator ruled out signs of violence or trauma to the body. The autopsy determined that Omar Watson died as a result of an interlobular pulmonary thrombolism associated with right deep vein thrombosis, and determined his cause of death was natural, the email said. All right, so basically a blood clot in the lungs. That's the same thing Beat King in Houston, that rapper producer who passed like last week, a couple weeks ago. That was the he had the same condition. Deep vein thrombosis typically develops when a blood clot forms in the leg. The risk is higher when people are sitting in tight spaces for long periods, including while traveling. Pulmonary embolism is a life-threatening condition that occurs when a clot breaks off and travels to the lung, cutting off blood flow. All right. His suitcase arrives in Brooklyn, setting off a new wave of emotions. Omar Watson's body arrived in New York City, John F. Kennedy, March 21st. They said on the death certificate, the cause of death is natural. I want to read that part again. Inside the suitcase were his clothes, along with dresses, blouses, pink sandals, and silver hoop earrings. His mother said the clothes appeared new, and while her son was social and made friends during his solo travels, he did not mention meeting anyone in Colombia. Months later, his mother is still struggling to cope. My heart goes out to his family, especially to his mother. You could tell that she was a praying mother, right? Seemed like her and her son was very close. It did mention that they were married, but her mother was the main one active. I don't know if that was his stepfather when they mentioned about, you know, her mother being married or whatever. But she's the one that's mainly corresponding with the news outlet. Okay. So this is what I want to say. Where should I leave this at? Should I leave this here or should I leave this at the top? Let me leave it right here. Right. I want to show his mother, but I want to keep the caption, the news, the article title in the background also. Now, this is what I think, right? I don't believe that, me personally, I don't believe that he passed away through a blood clot in the lungs. That's just my conjecture. With drugs, there doesn't have to be foul play, right? It doesn't have to be foul play. For the most part, there isn't any foul play. From what I'm hearing, a lot of these women, they're putting this drug on their chest, somewhere on their body. They got other drugs out there that they put in drinks and stuff like that. Excuse me, right? This man went over there and his electronics and his wallet is gone. All right. One thing you got to understand is I know these Airbnbs are very nice. They're fly. I prefer going to Airbnbs than hotels. Some of these hotels is like they serve food, it's trash. You don't have no kitchen in your room at some of these hotels. You got people with annoying kids running up and down the hallway. You like your peace, your privacy, and you like something fly, right? When I used to come up here, where I'm at right now, I used to book Airbnbs all the time. 4-story, 5-story, split level Airbnb homes. I used to book them all the time up here. And after a while, it's like with hotels, you get your points, and there's hotel footage that somebody could pull up in case something happens, so they know if you were there by yourself or not. Airbnb, they have been criticized heavily and demonized in the media for quite some time because some of these Airbnb hosts, they would have hidden cameras in their homes, right? So I even think maybe at one point in time they were taken to court. I'm not sure. I think at one point in time I read somewhere that Airbnb was taken to court because of that. Had there been a hidden camera at this home, they would have gotten some closure. All right. I don't believe what this toxicology report. I don't believe that at all. This autopsy and toxicology report, I don't believe it at all. I believe that he wasn't there by himself. And if you're at a hotel, right, people could see when you walked in with somebody. The side entrances and exits, like you need a key card first in order to get in. And even if you come into the side, there's still cameras, there's still footage that you can get from cameras on the side of the building and behind the building, especially through the hallway. In a place like Colombia, whoever you're bringing there, you need to walk them through the front, right? Camera needs to get them, CCTV needs to get them. That's why in the Dwayne Morris case, they were able to find out who that lady was right away, right? They probably didn't know the friend, but they knew who that chick was right away because they followed them. With an Airbnb, it's like, all right, I don't, you see, I don't even know if he took an Uber to get to the Airbnb because they could say, okay, damn, how many people in this time frame took an Uber over to this address? They could find out, right? But I don't know where his Airbnb was. I don't know what it looks like. It sounded like it must have been out in the cut because for whatever reason, they don't have footage of where he was staying at. Right, there's cameras everywhere. I know they got cameras down there in Colombia. They don't have no video footage of who was there with them. So they're trying to make his mother believe that he went down there and, soon as like as if he was living some double life or whatever. Yeah, here's his suitcase. Like, hold on. What's up with the, women's clothing and hoop earrings? Like, and I bet, like, if they try, mother's probably looking at the clothes like, hey, this wouldn't even fit him if he was into that kind of stuff. And why would his electronics be gone? So it sounds like whoever was with him drugged him, took his belongings, probably took his electronics, gave it to whatever scamming gang that she's a part of, probably extracted all the funds from his accounts on his iPad and his phone, right? And then probably changed clothes to disguise herself going out of the spot. I don't know. I'm just guessing. I don't have any knowledge, right? But I'm speculating here. This doesn't sound right. And this is what your parents and your family goes through when you're so far away and they're trying to get information on as to what happened. If you have a country that's saving, it seems like they're saving face, and your family can't get any closure. It's taking months. They're spending all this money to be like, okay, they're moving too slow. Let me hire this person. Okay, they're moving too slow. Let me hire this person. Okay, I can't understand none of what anybody is saying. So it almost sounds like you're talking in circles, or you're trying to get over on me by acting like, you don't really understand or whatever. And that happens a lot when you travel abroad. When you meet somebody who's bilingual, and when they're trying to get over on you, they act like they don't know what you're saying. Or they'll say things in a way mixed with their own language to confuse you, right? So they can get over on you. I've experienced that many times traveling abroad. This is why I say, man, go to a much more upscale, country. Go to a first world country. You go into this third world, it's cheaper. You're like, damn, I'm spending, $50 on this mansion over here. The women down there, they charging this much money per night. That ain't nothing. I don't know. I don't know if that's what he was into. I'm pushing this to the side right now. And then when something happens to you, your family has to suffer a lot to try to get an update. I've seen this so many times. I've seen this happen to women multiple times. I remember one time there was this girl, she lost her life on a beach in India. And her family, like it took them forever to try to, they were spending a lot of money because she was from the UK. They were spending a lot of money to find out, hey, what happened to my daughter? And her daughter was, the R word and unalive. Same thing that happened in Phuket a few years ago. There was a girl from the UK, another one from the UK. She traveled to Phuket, and then she got on a ferry to go to an island off the coast of Phuket. And then some dude who saw her got on the ferry and followed her the whole way. And she got off the ferry, walked off onto the island. He followed her, got up close to her, beat her upside the head with like a rock, kept bashing her, sexually took advantage of her, then covered up her body with debris, but like her hand was sticking out. So some foreigners passed by, saw it, called the police. There's no police on these islands in Thailand, right? There's no police supervision on some of these islands that you go to, especially in Thailand. So the police had to get on the ferry to go to the island, and then paramedics had to get on the ferry to go to the island, pick her up, and it took her family forever to get updates, and they spent a lot of money, right? So a lot of the brothers, I'm like, all right, if you want to travel, you give them suggestions and they don't want to hear it. I'm like, man, go to Japan, you know, go to travel to Canada. Go to Canada, go to Japan, go to Switzerland, right? But you tell brothers this, and they say, man, but I haven't heard anybody talk about these places that are black on YouTube. It's just as expensive. And man, what are the hoes talking about over in these countries? I swear to God, that's what they talk about. Really in reverse. They talk about, hey man, I don't know what the hoes are talking about over in this country. They say that first. Then it's like, all right, it's expensive, and I don't know about the food, and man, it's kind of far. And I'm like, all right, you go into these dangerous countries, and they have like it's corrupt from top to bottom, right? Even the own government said, hey man, stay away from this country. because we can't control our people. If their own government is saying, hey, man, stay away from us, we ain't acting right down here, we're fucked up down here. It's like, brothers like, hey, man, you know, that ain't going to be me. And it's not everybody that's going down there, right? It's everybody that travels to some of these countries, they're not a victim. They don't become a victim. You know, a lot of people have been traveling down there, living down there for years, and they're doing just fine. But um and this brother right here, he was only supposed to stay in Colombia for like a week, and he was supposed to go to, I think, Portugal right after. He's traveled to different places. I know one of the places he's traveled to was Japan and stuff like that. So he was a traveler. This wasn't his first time traveling abroad, right? But I can't stress enough that, I mean, no matter where you go, you know, you always got to be on your P's and Q's. Watch your 10 and your 2, you know, your 7 and your 5, right? You know, you got to keep your head on a swivel wherever you go. But in South America, it's just best to stay away from these places. Um, Me personally, I know what the autopsy says, what the toxicology says, but I don't believe it. I don't believe it. Let me drop the link if anybody wants to come up. I don't believe it because if it was natural, why would his phone and his iPad and his wallet be missing? Why would my lifeline be missing? Right? Why would there be women's clothes in my and this is how once again I'm speculating because the death certificate says natural causes. But let's explore what I'm saying here for a minute. If it was the case that there was foul play there, this is how dumb criminals are, right? Obviously, you use something to put this man, you know, to sleep, and it was too much, and the man passed away, right? If that happened that way, but you're gonna leave your clothes in his suitcase? No, they didn't take his passport. His passport was still on the nightstand, and that's another thing. Like, you see, back in the days, people used to worry about their passport being taken because it was like, you know, America was just a fantasy at that moment in time. They didn't have social media. Like, I have a friend, he's 50, he's like 57, 58 years old. He was living in Korea in like 1989, right? He stayed in Asia from 1989 to 2009. He was living in Asia, Korea, Saudi Arabia, and he was always traveling like Japan, um, the Philippines, and stuff like that, Thailand. Man, he told me one of the biggest things he had to fear and be cautious of when he traveled back then was his passport, right? Because people, they didn't really have access to the internet. They've only heard stories about America and what the images were shown on TV and on radio, right? So it was just a fantasy to them. It's like, hey, I gotta get a passport and make my way over to America. So I know some people I can take a passport to, pay them some money, and then they can make me a fake one, and I can make my way over to America. So people were really cautious about that passport back then. Nowadays, no, they don't want the passport. They're like, look, I already I see what goes on over there. I don't want to go over there, right? I don't want to go there. I just want the money. And let me give a disclaimer. And I should have given this excuse me. Let me give a disclaimer. I should have given this disclaimer in the beginning, right? This man didn't do anything wrong. This man didn't do anything wrong. This man booked a flight and he went to a foreign country. There's nothing illegal about that. All right. There's nothing illegal about that. And on top of that, let's say because If he died of natural causes, my condolences to the family. But let me give a different scenario, right? Let's take him out of it. Anybody that goes down there to talk to women, there's nothing wrong or illegal about that. Anybody who goes down there, and let's say not only are they talking to women, they're paying for prostitutes down there. There's nothing wrong, there's nothing illegal about that, because you don't criticize and condemn people for traveling up to Canada, because in Canada, the legal age of consuming alcohol is 19 years old. You can be 19 and drink alcohol, buy alcohol, get drunk out here in public, right? So anybody who crosses country lines and going to Canada, I mean, should they be shamed? Should they be shitted on for, getting a drink of alcohol going into Canada? There are countries where drugs are legal in Europe, right? Now, that's not my personal preference. I wouldn't hang out with somebody who's knowingly that they're a dope fiend. But if it's legal, what am I supposed to say? I'm like, hey, I don't hang out with that person. And there still could be some things that are legal that you can look down upon, but in this case, no, because you know why? There's a lot of women from Colombia who migrated over to America that are standing on corners prostituting themselves while they're getting unearned benefits, and nobody says anything. The American government is protecting these women. So if they could be protected without being criminalized and demonized for, you go to New York City right now, I mean, there's hoes all over the place standing on the corner from these South American countries, right? People talk about it, but they're not being criminalized, right? Hey, they're trying to do the best they can. What's wrong with this man traveling down to Colombia? Because I see a lot of people shaming men traveling to different foreign countries. On top of that, do you know, like the amount of women and men who travel abroad, it's 50-50. I see just as much women who travel abroad. Go to Jamaica right now. You're going to see a bunch of Caucasian Canadians women down there. You're going to see a bunch of British women down there getting it in. Everybody overlooks them. You go to South Korea right now in Seoul, you're going to see a lot of black women over there right now getting it in. So I don't like how people shame a man for just doing anything, especially black men, right? Especially ones that are getting a passport and just traveling abroad. If they connect with women in other countries, what is wrong with that? Because these women in South America, they are in America. They're in America, you know, as the ladies of the night, every night. All right, let's look at some of these comments. You can go to Africa. Overseas criminal minds are like our kindergarten. Okay. He should be able to do whatever he does freely. I might travel to Brazil in the future, not Colombia, but I would be moving smart. Nothing wrong with that. Just be careful. As long as people are not hurting others, they should be able to do whatever they do. And I've said this for the longest. If women and men should be able to do whatever they want to do as long as they're not harming anybody. Right? This man wasn't harming anybody. But if you're going to a place where, the crime rate is really high against foreigners, then be careful. I would stay away from that place. Right? So once again, let me drop the link. I'm going to end this live stream real quick if nobody wants to come up. There goes the link to the StreamYard. That's the StreamYard link right there. If you want to send a donation by way of Cash App, $Splash Wave Beats, hit the like button, share this video. After this live stream ends, I'm going to drop links in the description box below for the Facebook page and the Patreon page. Come and join the Facebook page. Other like-minded brothers who are traveling and sharing their experiences also in that group. Yes, MD says avoid Airbnb. I would agree. I learned my lesson. I learned my lesson a few months ago. Really for other reasons, right? But Once I strayed away from Airbnbs and I started getting back into hotels, I said to myself, you know what? This is a much safer alternative for people like me who want to travel across seas. It's a much safer alternative. Anything can happen, but you know, if something were to happen to me, there's video footage of it. There is no video footage of what happened to this brother right here. What's crazy is like the cell phone company can't even ping his phone, right? So I think there's corruption from top to bottom. I never forget. I had just bought a Samsung Galaxy phone a few years ago in Thailand. I moved to the east side of Thailand or Bangkok in Bering BTS station. I moved into Supalai City Resort, Bering BTS station. You guys can look that up. Supalai City Resort, Bering Bearing train station, Bangkok, Thailand, right? I just moved there. It's 2017. There was a woman she like her father's from the Netherlands, her mother was Thai. She lived in the next apartment complex over from me, and I ran into her, hollered at her. So we went on a couple of dates, right? I didn't even know she was mixed with Thai. She had red hair. So our first outing together, uh this taxi. We didn't get an Uber. We just waved down a taxi outside. I forgot where we went. But when we came back to kick it, the taxi driver drove off with my phone. All right. I left it in the cab. It fell out of my pocket. I left it in the cab. I'm like, damn, I just bought that phone too. And so I had to get a Xiaomi. I had to get a Xiaomi phone after that. But I looked it up on Google, right? It was following my phone the whole time. It pinged it to like this random house out in the cut, right? It was about 15 miles from me, 15, 20 miles from me. I could have gone and went over there and got it, but they said that's the last time it pinged. So they took it over to a home and they did something to it and it didn't trace it anymore after that, right? That was in a foreign country. Like they could still track and trace your phone in a foreign country. All I had to do was go on Google and look it up. I stay with the community. So the fact that they told his mother, like, we don't know his iPad or his phone, we don't know where it went. Like, you see, this is why I tell you, like, this is a homogenous society. I know Colombia, there's many different uh faces and many different like ethnicities within Colombia, right? But in some of these homogenous countries, it's like they do a half-ass job when it comes to investigation. It's almost like they're looking out for, you know, the suspects. Hotels have liability. That's the difference. Good point. Rex Jones, I heard that Airbnb in other countries like Colombia is not safe because you don't know who owns Airbnb. It's better to book a hotel. Exactly. Like he could have been backdoored by the host. And we don't know, but it's like they're still trying to tell his mother that it was it was natural. And I'm trying to respect the autopsy report here. And I'm still speculating, but it's like this sounds weird to me. I'm very polite and cordial when I stay in a community and very respectful. As soon as you land, the locals have a drop on you, phones start ringing. Yeah, I know that for sure because man, I remember this never happened to me in Thailand, but I remember my first time I landed in Beijing, China, right? And they told me about They called it black taxis. I find that funny. There's black taxis and there's regular city taxis. It's already late at night. I'm like, man, I just want to go because I put in the GPS like where the Airbnb was when I stayed over in Beijing when I first moved there. And I'm like, damn, this is kind of far. Man, I just want to go because I have a long ways to go. So I see the line for the taxis. I'm like, whatever. So I see the line for the black taxis. Dude came up to me. He's like, where you at? I was like, where you trying to go? I said, I'm trying to go to Zhanggu Zhuang Station. He's like, oh, hell no. He said, you know what he said? He said 1,000 renminbi. You know how much 1,000 renminbi was at that time? It was $160. And so, considering how far it is, like, yeah, it wouldn't have been that much, but in America, it would have been about 500. So I put out the money in my pocket. I said, all I got is 400. He said, okay, then let's go. Man, do you know how long it took? It was that ride, it was at least an hour and a half, damn near 2 hour drive from the airport all the way to the last station on line 14 in Beijing, China. Like, I'm like, how much was that at the time? I was like $64. So that was about right. But I met up with my friend in St. Tune the next day, and he was just, oh no, he got you. It should only cost like 200. Well, I'm like, shit, he was trying to charge me 1,000, but I charged it to the game. But they waiting on you at the airport. You look new. Hey, nah, come my way, my friend. You don't know any better? See, I know better. All right. Now they got apps. Okay. Now they got apps. So people can't really hit you with the okey doke. They only hit you with the okey doke if you're impatient. And I was impatient that day. Right. Uh, man, anybody got any questions, concerns, comments? Right. Anybody want to call up and give their 2 cents? Once again, my heart goes out to uh this man's family. Um it's sad that he passed. It's sad that his mother had to find out that way. Um, man, I'm trying to respect what they put on the death certificate, what they said about his autopsy, what they said about the reports. I'm trying to respect it, but at the same time, man, I don't know. I don't know. You have some explaining to do. You know, okay, so now if his belongings, you see, this wouldn't be on CNN just because he had a blood clot that traveled all the way up to his lungs. It wouldn't be on CNN, so they know something ain't right. How does something like that make it to CNN? Like, and he didn't pass out on the street. I remember one time in Taiwan, there was a guy, like, he had a heart attack in the street. It was like 2 o'clock in the morning. Big white dude walking down the street. They showed CCTV of him just falling down on the ground, and he passed away right there. My heart goes out to him and his family, but that didn't make it to CNN. You know what I'm saying? It was just that how it happened in the middle of the street like that. If that happened in his room, that wouldn't have made news, right? That made the news because of the video footage. But we knew there was no foul play there. It was just natural causes. This man was in his home. There is no video footage. This made it all the way to CNN because they know something's not right. And you trying to tell me it's natural cause? Okay, where is his belongings? If he was inside his Airbnb, the doors are locked. What about that host? Like, it's salute the Lord booming. It's good looking out. It's good looking out tier on Patreon, a good tier for you to answer more in-depth questions about China. Yes. So if you want more in-depth questions about China, go to Patreon. Let me get the link. Go to my Patreon page and do that tier. However you want to contact me through a phone call or you want me to make a video for you, I will. And send me a message, a direct message on Patreon to ask me the questions you want me to answer, and I'll make a video on it. Here we go right here. So if you guys want to check out the Patreon page or the Facebook page, there you go right there. I think passport bros talk too much. Changing the game abroad should be far more discreet. No. Why? Why? Because passport bros, it's like a lot of white guys, they speak out and claim, they say it's passport bros also. I mean, I was traveling before the term passport bros. I thought it was just an attack on black men, but nobody's attacking Asian men for traveling. Like America's filled with Chinese, Vietnamese, Korean people, Filipino people. Nobody's attacking them for getting online talking about how they got an American uh permanent residency. In Canada, you know how many people from the UK are moving over here? Nobody's attacking them. There's a bunch of women over here from the UK. Nobody's attacking them. There's a lot of Asian women, Asian men who migrate over here and they talk about their experience. Nobody's shitting on them. There's a bunch of Asian people who travel to other Asian countries over in Asia. Like, you know how many Chinese people live in Thailand? Nobody's shaming them, dumping on them. Hell, they're rolling out the red carpet for them. They have a high-speed rail that they're building that's connecting from Thailand over to China. So they have a Chinatown. They got Chinese restaurants. They celebrate Chinese New Year. So they welcome Chinese people. Why shouldn't they be able to get on the internet and talk about their experience? But we got to be quiet. Why do we got to be shamed for it? So I don't agree with that. I'm not getting on you or anything. I'm just saying that I don't agree with it. Broadcasting the business promotion location for 50 countries in. That's what's up. I've been to Colombia 3 times. I enjoyed it, but I'll never return because of the dangers. Yeah, and this is all we're saying. It's just like travel wherever you want to go to, but if there's women that you always got to be careful anywhere where you go when you travel and you holler at the local women. All of my friends who traveled to Winnipeg, Manitoba, in Canada, all of them got into an altercation with somebody, in Winnipeg. They just give it up like that over there. I remember I had a group of friends, they went to Winnipeg. I couldn't make it. All of them came up cast up. They all got stabbed up. They were all casted up when they came back. I had another friend. He went over to Winnipeg. He was brawling with another guy on the street because his girlfriend liked him. I had another friend. Him and my other partner went with him, right? And they walked into a club. This Asian girl approached my homie, and so, but she was there with a dude. But Asians in Canada, when they go to a club, especially a hip hop club, they roll like 50 deep. All right, so I got a story on that in Edmonton, but so she was there 50 deep with a group, and then her dude and like the people with him approached them. It was some shuffling going on, so the bouncers kicked the Asians out of the club. When the club was done and it was being let out, my homies walk outside. The Asians are outside waiting on him. One of them's in his face talking to him. One of the other Asian guys come up from behind and hit him upside the head with a bottle. Split his, split it down to the white meat. He had to go get stitches after that. Then my other friends started like knocking random people out. And then the bouncers broke it up. They went to the hospital. And when he got back, I looked at his head. I'm like, damn. Everybody I know that been over there. I've been to Winnipeg. I've never been to the club, but I knew somebody over there. So I was just at the house. Right. But that's anywhere you go. Dangerous anywhere you go. Whenever you go someplace, like if you go to Colombia, you still have to keep your head on the swivel. But if you go over there and you're not like with a woman, you're not trying to holler at women, you just going over there sightseeing, people, most of the time people come back with a decent review. It's when you go to certain places, anywhere you go to, you start hollering at the women, then that's when you got a problem. And it's not just Colombia, it's anywhere you go. But Passport's narrative is perceiving as tricking. So what? So what? It's not illegal when it comes to tricking. So what? You know the biggest tricks I ever met in my life? Asian guys, and particularly Chinese men. Chinese men are some of the biggest tricks I've ever met in my life. Right? Should they be demonized because of them tricking? They hire a couple of hookers. They go to the KTV spot. They spend thousands of dollars a night for a room to sing, doing karaoke. Then they banging them in the room. Then they pass out in the room. Should they be demonized for it? Come on now. You got women out here mad that men ain't spending money. Then when you spend money, you want to drug them and rob them. So it's like, damn if you do, damned if you don't. Then when you hold on to your wallet, you shaming them. How do you know? How do you know? People promote traveling in different places, but I don't know any men that just outright promoting tricking on the internet. They might talk where the ladies are, but man, there's a bunch of races on YouTube that talk about, hey man, I traveled over here, the women with this, that, and the third. So if that's what I've never heard a guy get on the internet and say, hey, if you go down this street right here, you'll run into Rowena porn, right? Or these Thai names, right? You'll run into her. She got on the green heels, right? If you tell her, hey, take me to a special place, she'll grab you by the hand and walk you to the back of this building and take you up the stairs. And then it looked like rush hour 2 up in there when the doors open up and you see like 100 women with numbers on their chests, and you can have all 100 of them if you got the money for it. Nobody's ever said that on YouTube from what I've seen. So other races of people do it too. And nobody says anything about it. But when a black man talks about his travel experience, now all of a sudden we got to shame him. I'm sick and tired of that. Or even black women. Look at those two couples from LA who was over in Indonesia. They did a travel vlog. They did the same thing everybody else has been doing on the internet for years, right? The moment they do it, because it's during the pandemic, now all of a sudden Indonesians are talking about that their visas are expired. And I'm like, how would they weren't expired, but how would you know that visas are expired? Oh, this has nothing to do with racism, but they trying to help people come over here. So what if I am? Right? You couldn't get on a plane to go over to Indonesia back then, even if you went to the airport. So like they had every excuse in the world, and they kept saying that it wasn't about racism. Right. And then they ended up getting deported. But man, all those Australians that were over there, They didn't deport them. They were talking about their travel vlogs over in Indonesia. Nobody said anything about them. So I'm not here to shame black people for, man, go overseas and have fun. Because they're gonna shit on you regardless. They're gonna your neighbors are gonna shit on you. People that look like you gonna shit on you. Your barber gonna shit on you. Your co-workers gonna shit on you. The postman gonna shit on you, right? That chick on aisle 6, right? At register 6 at Walmart, she gonna shit on you, right? They're gonna shit on you anyway. So have fun. As long as you're not hurting anybody. Because those men don't hate the women and each other, they stick together ultimately, and they don't have a low reputation as a people. Who you talking about? Who you talking about? Because they don't hate their women and each other. Dude, have you seen the murder rate in these countries? Have you seen the murder rate? The murder rate in America is like 6.2 per 100,000 people. The murder rate in Colombia is 27.48 per 100,000 people. That means that in Colombia, it's 4.5 times more dangerous than it is in America. And okay, so I was in Thailand last month. I see why you stayed for several years. Yeah, it's a great place to live. To visit, I wouldn't recommend nobody visiting there, because all the spots that made it worth visiting, they took it away. Like the night train markets, they're not there anymore. I used to go to the night train markets all the time. They're not there anymore. Asia Teak isn't there anymore. They just have the malls. Who wants to travel all the way to another country just to hang out in the malls, right? But the malls are fly. You're just gonna do a bunch of window shopping over there. Like, okay, yeah, nice. McLaren and a Bentley dealership inside the mall. But you know, and if you want to travel over there, it's cool. It was lit. I mean, but they're not online promoting. I already talked about that. I'm talking about YouTube. I already talked about that. There used to be one content creator named Sir Tricks a Lot who was a big advocate of tricking. So what? So what? It's legal in these places. If I just looked it up, you can Google it right now. Colombia, it is legal. Prostitution is legal, right? It's technically not legal in Thailand, but they just allow it. Okay. So tricking is legal. Where you going? What's the problem? I'm not. I've never tricked before in my life. I'm not tricking. I've never tricked before in my life. But just because that ain't my get down, do I got to shame somebody else and demonize somebody because it's legal? Dude, there used to be a white YouTuber. There used to be several white YouTubers on YouTube years ago who was in Thailand. They used to go around. This one dude, he went around with a hat and he would go around uh Terminal 21. Is it Terminal 21 or Terminal 23? That mall on Esso and Succumvit, right? Terminal 23, right? He would go around with a GoPro on his hat and holler at like married women because he was a white dude and he knew, okay, you know, my skin color, I'm gonna show you how they white worship over here. He would holler at women who had wives and boyfriends right there with them, and they would just give them his line messenger, their line messenger and their phone numbers right in front of them. And the boyfriends and the husband would sit there in shame, like, damn, like nobody did anything, right? Eventually, one, I would say socialite, she had a large following. She was like, the hell you doing? And you recording me? Nah. And you better not post this up because hey, I'll have you arrested. He posted it up anyways. Local authorities were after him. So then he ran over to Taiwan. He did the same thing over there. Then he got ran out of Taiwan. Right. I'm not saying if he could do it, you can do it. No. Right. But man, y'all talking about brothers talking about tricking. Man, I've seen guys like record people and take their wives without their consent. And it took a Thai woman to stop this person, right? They have red light district channels on YouTube. Yes, what's wrong with that? It's a white guy named Adulting Hard who promotes tricking overseas. Salute to him. There should be no shame with that. If it's legal, now if it's illegal in a country, don't do it. Follow the laws. If the law permits you to do something that is normally not legal in your country, be careful, be safe, but it's legal. I would never set my foot in South America or Mexico. Stay out of them countries. Exactly. Big Boss Real Talk and Tailor Made Dreams promote mongering on YouTube. Yeah, I don't know who those guys are. True. Salute the QB passport flexing. Sad situation for this brother. Yep. Hold up. My bad. Damn, I lost my place. I heard good things about Panama though. Just be careful. Colombia is more dangerous to tourists than Jamaica. Hmm. They're both dangerous. In Jamaica, each year one tourist die. Blame globalization. Not true. Women can sell it, but men can't buy it. Make that make. Yeah, I know that. But in America, they can sell it, but you can't buy it. But hey, you know, laws change. People don't like it, but that's going to be the norm now. I just think it's selective outrage when people get mad at brothers for talking about, like if they want to talk about tricking and they're talking about Colombia, then let them trick then. Who cares? There was a white dude named Cuban Dave, but all that promoting got him kicked out of some Latin countries. And that does happen where you could just be shining a light on, talking about you could be talking about your experiences dealing with women over in a country that you're in. You're not even showing video footage of people. And somebody who comes along your channel will say something, right? Rat you out to the local authorities and try to get you arrested just because you're talking about your experience with local women. And it's like, we're gonna arrest you because you're making the women here look easy. I'm like, so out of 10 women that I talked about, 4 of them rejected me. I hooked up with 6. And but what are you talking about? Like prostitution's legal. You know what I'm saying? Like I've seen guys go through that before. So yeah, there are women that are easy over here. They're called prostitutes, and your country said they're legal. So why can't a man on YouTube talk about that? Like I said, I'm not a trick. I've never tricked before a day in my life. But if a man wants to go through that, let him. If he wants to trick, let a trick. Leave the tricks alone. That should be our new slogan. You know, we got the rent free. You see the logo right here, rent free gang, right? Stop letting people live rent free in your mind. Right? We got some fly logos. I got some. I'm wearing a rent free. This logo right now on the screen. I got this shirt on right now. I got this on my shirt right now. Right? If you want a shirt with this on here, right? Holla at me. Right? Holla at me in the comment section or the Patreon page or the Facebook page. I got. You know how many. You know how many. Hold on. I got this one right here. You got the red panda. He minding his business, ain't worried about nobody, but people talking shit about him. So just rent-free gang, just animals, cute animals in the wild, minding their business. That's my whole brand right here. You got the panda eating noodles, right? Rent-free gang. He minding his business. Uh, this was another one I had made. This was from a different designer, little red panda chilling with his broad in the in the pool in the water. with a palm tree. He's minding his business, rent free, right? There's another one, paper plane, astronaut, waving that American flag, FBA all day, right? You want this on a shirt? Holla at me. You know, I got another one where Shamu, he flying on the back of Shamu with the planets, right? Holla at me. I put this on a shirt. You know, I'm a gamer, so hey, minding my business. All right. This is what this whole brand about. So rent free gang. Let me change it back. I like the other one better. This is my favorite one right here. Rent free gang. Let a trick. Hashtag let a trick. Right. Let a trick do his thing. Leave the tricks alone. Which one? Let a trick or hashtag leave the tricks alone. Leave the tricks alone. Man, it's crazy all over the world, actually, especially in Asia. He's funny though. That's crazy. Big boss smashed a homeless woman in Brazil. All right, shit. You got brothers in America who didn't smash crackheads. It's disgusting, but it ain't illegal. I remember that QB passport flexing. Is this your second channel? I've had multiple channels. All right. I'm from Jamaica. Salute to you. Panama City is beautiful brown black women. I don't know why brothers don't promote that city. Well, here's the thing, man. When you travel abroad, see back in the days, hollering at like dark skinned women in certain countries, they used to be appreciative when a black man approached them. I've heard a lot of stories of brothers approaching black women in some of these countries like Asia or dark skinned women in South America, Asia, and they avoid brothers like the plague because push come to shove, if we having raw unprotected, you know what, and the baby comes out, they don't want to be stuck with a black baby. They think dating up is dating somebody light or white. All right. So I'm not saying brothers are never pulled in Panama City, but I've heard anywhere brothers go, they have issues with the dark skinned women. Man, I remember one time, well, shit, there were two women that had a funky attitude in Thailand. They were half black, half Thai. They just looked like regular black women. They were using a whole bunch of skin whitening creams, had a funky attitude towards me. Oh my God. Man, I'm not even going to tell you what happened. I'll be here all night. There are a ton of places brothers don't promote. What are your thoughts on sugar dating? What do you mean, like, if it's not illegal, then do what you do. I mean, me and you can't be friends if you're doing that. But if I'm not against anybody, as long as you're not harming somebody, so what? Is that harming somebody? All right, so you meet you a young chick, you paying for her education, you bought her a car, you bought her clothes, you put her in a condo, and I'm against it, but it's not illegal. He's not harming anybody. Do your thing. Because Panama is not as cheap as Colombia. Brothers are promoting that. My main issue is decorum. You know how brothers go to the extreme filming their shenanigans? No, they're not half as bad as some of these other guys. I haven't really seen any real shenanigans in a long time, right? You'll have guys who record shenanigans when something bad happens, but tell me what are the shenanigans? Give me an example. So a brother walks in a club and talks to women. All right, is that illegal? And these women, they know they on camera. Like you got women right now who are just attention whores on YouTube, recording everything. I know there's a chick on my timeline. She went to Puerto Rico recently, just attention whoring to the max. Nobody was calling for her to shut down her channel. Don't record somebody that doesn't want to be recorded, and don't do anything illegal, right? Brothers are cheap. I will agree to that. But there are some guys that are just strung out on Latina booty, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that, right? There's nothing wrong with that. If women can fly over to Korea and be sprung on Korean men, there's nothing wrong with men going down to South America and hooking up with South American women. All right. If white women can travel down to Jamaica and nobody bats an eye about it, then there should be no problems with brothers wanting to go down to South America and finding themselves a South American woman. There's nothing wrong with that. I talked about that one, what was that one podcast that I saw on TikTok? Yeah, this Colombian woman talking to two black men. I think they were in New York or whatever. She talking about, yeah, I'm from Colombia, and I think it's a disgrace how you see these American men go down there trying to look for women, and I think it's weird and disgusting or whatever. But you are from Colombia in America, hollering at local men in America. You're doing the same thing they doing, and nobody said that. Nobody said that. Nobody questioned. Well, nobody said, well, sounds like you. You're doing the same thing. Nobody, they just sitting there giggling with her. Oh, yeah, they lames, girl. Come on now. Panama is still luxury at a discount. Well, I don't know brothers talk about Germany. I hear a lot of good things about Germany. I've heard a lot of brothers talk about Germany. I have family in Germany. Dirty porn, still snooty, these bras. Filming women without consent, assuming all women are for sale. Well, that's not cool, but people get recorded without their consent all the time on social media. You look at the Explore page on any one of these platforms, right? There are people being recorded all the time, right? So I'm not saying it's good. No, you should not record anybody without their consent. That's different. All right. Who was that one brother that was living in Russia? I think he was from Brooklyn. He was from New York. Somebody might say it in the comment section. It was a dude who was living in Russia, black dude from New York, living in Russia. He had all these women come through his apartment, right? And these women, they wanted to get on camera with him. He had a popular channel. They wanted to get on camera with him, but it was the local Russian men that didn't like it. So I guess he had to leave. I'll just say I think he left because of all the attention his channel was getting. But these women, they would just come to his apartment and they were just having fun with him on his platform. Didn't do anything illegal, right? But you got, like I said, anywhere you go, man, you're going to have jealous males out here. Making undercover sex tape is a shenanigan example. You cannot post up an undercover sex tape on YouTube, my friend. So nice try, but no. Now, if you're talking about Twitter, I don't know about what people are posting on Twitter, right? And if Twitter allows all that shit on there, then what's the big deal? It's legal. That sounds familiar. Let me look it up. Philco. Yeah, I think his name is Philco. Yeah, this brother was over in Russia. It wasn't like he was just roaming the streets, putting cameras in people's faces. No, he would invite them back, ask if you want to get on YouTube. They said yes, and they had full-on conversations. They were very flirty. What was the problem? What's the problem with that, right? But you got people who would point the finger and shame him for that. It's jealousy. The brother got the gift of gab that you don't have, and now you're mad, right? So salute to I don't really know him like that. I knew of his channel, but there's nothing wrong with doing that. And I'm tired of people getting shamed for bringing people on camera with their consent, but because the women are showing me cooperation, you want to run somebody out the country or press up on them. I don't like that. Y'all not doing it to nobody else. Not saying you, not brothers. There are some brothers and women who are doing that, but other races of people who do that to other races of YouTubers, they don't do that to them. Back in the day, there were content creators who found ways to add spicy things on YouTube, not so much. This is interesting. Not so much these days with that type of shenanigans. I never seen that. Never saw it. I don't know what y'all talking about. There ain't no undercover freaky tapes on YouTube. That shit will get flagged and taken down right away. What are you talking about? Right? Now, if somebody directed you to the OnlyFans, that's what OnlyFans is for. That's what Twitter is for, right? These women do it. Nobody, like I don't, man. Look, there's some double standards that I'm not gonna let fly. There are some double standards I'm not gonna let fly. All right. So anyways, man, I'm about to get off of here. You guys be safe. Rest in peace. Rest in peace to this brother right here, Omar Watson. My heart goes out to his mother, his family, his father, his siblings, his friends. My heart goes out to them, brothers. I hope that you guys can, first of all, eat a proper human diet. Number one, drink water, right? Stay active, walk around, and practice fasting. Definitely practice fasting, and stay away from South America. All right. You guys be safe. I'll see you guys on the next live stream. If I do another live stream, what's today? Tuesday? If I have time, I might do one on Friday. All right. You guys be safe. Hit the like button, share this video. Peace.